We all have that one special someone in our lives. You know, that one person you're locked in a passionate, never-ending rivalry with. Anime is no different. There are a ton of incredible rivalries there too. And the only difference is that they're way, way bloodier than most of ours. Hopefully. Today we're looking at some of anime's best rivalries to make us feel better about hating our best friend. L and Light's rivalry in Death Note can be boiled down to one scene, and no, it's not the infamous potato chip one. It's the tennis match between the two super geniuses that really showcases what makes this rivalry so fantastic. Both of these characters have brains the size of watermelons, and when pitted against each other, each has to think 20 steps ahead before making a move. The simple tennis match turns into an all-out war of brain power as each guy basically thinks, well, if I do this, he'll do that, but he'll know that I knew that he did this and I was going to do that, so I should do this, so even though he'll probably know that I knew, and so on and so on and so on. It's one of the best rivalries in all of anime because it's two sides operating at peak intelligence. Too often, smart characters are only smart because their enemies make dumb mistakes. Trust us, that's not Death Note. One of the first anime that many people grew up with is, of course, Dragon Ball Z. And without contest, the best rivalry in the whole show is Goku and Vegeta. The two are forever linked in our eyes, like peanut butter and jelly or mashed potatoes and gravy. Both Goku and Vegeta are Saiyans, an alien race of super warriors bent on becoming the strongest in the entire universe. Goku was supposed to follow this mindset, yet he became Earth's mightiest protector instead. One of the big threats he faced early on was Vegeta, another Saiyan who was adamant about the whole destroy the Earth mission, but found himself defeated time and time again by Goku. This put Vegeta on an interesting path from full-on villain to semi-villain to anti-hero to finally a full-fledged hero. But no matter what, his goal was always the same, to become stronger and beat his eventual frenemy Kakarot. Naruto and Sasuke's rivalry in Naruto starts off relatively harmless, but then cranks up to 11 real quick. They both start off as young ninjas in training who join Team 7, and the two quickly butt heads. At the time of joining, Naruto is the worst student in the class and could learn a whole lot from Sasuke, and Sasuke needs to learn how to work better with others. As they become friends, the two remain competitive, but in that nice, shucks, they really care about each other sort of way. Of course, everyone knows things don't stay like that, as Sasuke eventually grows frustrated with his lack of progress and sets out on his own path to become stronger. His journey leads him down to some pretty dark places, and he's eventually labeled as an international criminal. Soon it's up to Naruto to hunt him down to try and save him, if that's even possible. And spoiler alert, it is! You'd think that on a superhero show, the hero's greatest rival would be a villain, but nope, not in My Hero Academia. Our lovable hero Midoriya's greatest rival is fellow classmate Mineta. Just kidding, of course it's human powder keg Bakugo. But to be fair, from an outside perspective, Bakugo certainly seems like a bad guy. He's always angrily yelling at everyone. He's got a face capable of making flowers die, and he's not the friendliest individual around. But when explaining why these two are perfect rivals, All Might says it best. They each lack what the other has. In Bakugo's case, he lacks Midoriya's unflappable conviction to save others, while Midoriya doesn't have Bakugo's explosive desire to win no matter what. Combined, they'd make the perfect hero, but as of now, they both have a lot to learn from each other. When you think of most punchable characters in all anime, the top 3 spots are all Gary from Pokemon. Ugh, Gary. Even the name just feels annoying to say. If spoiled, frustrating brats you want to electrocute with a Pikachu had a contest to see who was worse, Gary would win. How is this punk related to Professor Oak? Anyways, the one good thing about Gary being so unlikable is that it makes for a great rivalry with Ash. The two have been enemies since the very beginning, and they've gone through many awesome battles that only feel so epic because we hate Gary so much. Yeah, the vast span of Pokemon media, Gary has seen a little growth since his snotty roots, but that just doesn't change the fact that he belittled and made fun of Ash early on at every single turn. It pushed Ash to do better though, so we're at least thankful for that. Meliodas and Bon in Seven Deadly Sins will forever be rivals, even if they're on the same team. And whenever they fight, it's interesting. With Meliodas being incredibly strong and Bon being immortal and strong, it makes for a pretty fair fight. But whenever they do compete or fight, it's mostly always with big smiles, and obviously at full strength, no holds barred. They both just enjoy a good fight, and that's what makes their rivalry one of the healthiest on this list. Sure, there was that stretch of time where Bond tries to kill Meliodas when he's promised that the love of his life will be resurrected from the dead, but you can't really blame the guy for that. And after the two sort things out, their rivalry quickly reverts back to its friendly, competitive nature. Out of all the rivalries on this list, the one between Shinya Kogami and Shogo Makishima is one of the most intriguing because even though he's the clear bad guy, Shogo makes some excellent points and has a valid reason for what he's doing, even if he enjoys slashing a few necks along the way. They both live in the Psycho-Pass universe, which means a dystopian world where a crime surveillance system known as the Sybil system monitors everyone at all times to prevent crimes. The Enforcer Kogami is tasked with hunting down Shogo, who sets out to liberate all of Japanese society from under the thumb of Sybil. What ensues is a handful of physical and ideological battles that leaves Kogami ultimately victorious, but forever changed by what he's been through. That's the sign of a great rivalry, when one person walks away a completely different person. When her father is murdered, the determined Ryuko Matui vows to find answers by enrolling in Honnouji Academy. It's there that she butts heads with the ultimate mean girl and student council president, Satsuki Kiryuin. Kill la Kill throws a whole lot of crazy at you as it burns through insane, over-the-top fights, world-destroying stakes, and the idea that there's a special material called life fibers which came from space. They're sentient parasitic organisms that are the origins of all clothing on Earth and are casually responsible for all of human evolution. Man, told you it got kinda crazy. But ignoring all that nonsense, the heart of this anime is the rivalry between Ryuko and Satsuki, which starts extremely antagonistic but then grows into something unique and wonderful. Maybe Satsuki isn't as crazy evil as she seems, and maybe her and Ryuko have much more in common than Ryuko initially thought. It's always nice when your rival wants to fight on equal ground as you. Some great rivalries are formed when one side is just an irredeemable bad guy with no honor. Grimmjow is one of those villains, and it's because of his honorable traits that make him the best rival for Ichigo throughout the course of Bleach. Grimmjow, which we'll never get tired of saying, tries to never fight dirty, and has even gone so far as to heal Ichigo when he's been injured in order to make their fight as fair as possible. Watching these two duke it out is like The Princess Bride with Inigo Montoya and Wesley. It's a very honorable fight, but with more blood and more terrifying masks. You know you have a true rivalry with someone when they have an annoying nickname for you. Well, it's not the defining element of Zoro and Sanji's rivalry in One Piece. It's still funny to hear Sanji make fun of Zoro for his cropped green hair, which, to be fair, does look like moss. But their rivalry goes so much deeper than just name-calling. They clearly respect each other and agree every now and again, yet they still constantly fight both verbally and physically. Zoro is the brute who charges in like an angry rhino, while Sanji prefers a slightly more delicate touch. Each man motivates the other to train harder and become stronger. It's a healthy rivalry and one that sits right in the middle between enemies and friends. Given that their rivalry feels like the core of the entire Yu-Gi-Oh! Show, it's surprising that Yugi and Kaiba only dueled 3 times throughout its run. Their record is 2-1 in Yugi's favor, by the way, but really that loss is kind of debatable when Yugi had to purposefully lose the match, or else Kaiba said the result would send him flying off the ledge of a tower. But his rivalry with Yugi is totally understandable. In the early days, Kaiba was the undisputed champion of the game. No one could beat him. That is, until some random kid suddenly appeared harnessing the spirit of an ancient pharaoh and shockingly crushed him. That would be enough to drive anyone to start a rivalry. But really, it's always nice to see Yugi and Kaiba bounce off one another, as they're usually forced to unite against a common enemy, even though their personal philosophies differ completely. How could you hate your brother from another mother? Well, just ask Inuyasha, the half-demon, half-human protagonist of the anime with the same name. He has an intense rivalry with his brother Sesshomaru. Besides Sesshomaru being a pure-blood demon while Inuyasha is just a half-blood, Sesshomaru hates his brother because his father left him the legendary sword Tessaiga, while Sesshomaru was only given Tensaiga. And of course, because of the cruelty inflicted upon him throughout his life, Inuyasha isn't a huge fan of Sesshomaru either. Their rivalry turns bitter with Inuyasha even cutting off Sesshomaru's left arm in a fight, but even though he'd go as far as turning his brother right-handed, Inuyasha still cares for him enough not to kill him, and the two eventually come to begrudgingly care for each other. They'll never admit that to one another, even in a million years though. It's not hard to see why any student at the elite Totsuki Culinary Academy would want to be rivals with our protagonist Yukihara. He lacks a sophisticated culinary upbringing, he has a totally nonchalant attitude, and he immediately put a huge target on his back with a bold declaration about becoming the school's top talent. But out of all the students who vow to beat Yukihara, the best is Takumi Aldini. Even though it's mostly one-sided and Aldini vows to one day beat Yukihara, it's clear that these two respect each other as chefs. They're similar in a lot of ways in that they both hail from family-owned restaurants and will fiercely defend those close to them. Overall, Takumi's a pretty good dude, just don't wrong him in any way or else he might declare you his ultimate rival. Natsu and Gray are as different as fire and ice, which makes a lot of sense because Natsu is a fire user and Gray has a fondness for ice. Their magic really couldn't be more different. It's almost as if these two were made to be rivals, and that's exactly what they are. No matter how much growth or hardships these two face, it seems like they'll always find something to fight about. But underneath it all, they share a strong, almost unbreakable bond. Just don't mention that to them because they'll most likely deny it with a fiery passion. To call Kiritsugu the protagonist of Fate Zero is technically correct, but he's far from the noble hero we were expecting. He's determined to win the Holy Grail War, so he could do the right thing to end the world's pain by stopping all evil. A totally great wish, except he's not afraid to kill and destroy anything and anyone in order to accomplish it. And that is where his character gets a little murky. He soon forms a rivalry with another complex character, Kotomine Kirei, which is fascinating because although Kirei is the villain, he also undergoes a great crisis himself as he's never felt satisfied with anything in his life. The two men quickly become interested in the other, trying to understand each other's nature. It leads to some awesome fights between the two as you're never quite entirely sure who to root for, the guy with Wolverine claws or the guy with magic bullets. From the start, volleyball anime Haikyuu seems to set an epic rivalry between the enthusiastic pipsqueak Hinata and the angry setter Kageyama. They meet on opposite sides of the net, and when Kageyama's team utterly crushes Hinata's squad of newbies, Hinata vows vengeance. You'd expect the show to build to a rematch between the two, but the anime throws a curveball by quickly placing both of them on the same volleyball team. Their rivalry soon morphs into something really fascinating to watch, as the two constantly butt heads and try to outdo the other. They grow and evolve together, yet still always maintain that competitive, I got to be better attitude with each other, which allows them both to reach their maximum potential. Taichi and Arata couldn't be more different in the Karuta-centric anime Chihaya Furu. One is the super smart, super athletic pretty boy who excels at everything except Karuta, and the other is a quiet Karuta prodigy on the path toward greatness. Although very different, the most important thing these two have in common is simple: they're both in love with Chihaya. This sets up an interesting rivalry where these two are both friends and enemies at the same time. And the really tragic thing is that Taichi knows that if Chihaya ever chooses one of them, she's going to choose Arata. And Arata isn't actually in the anime all that often compared to Taichi, but his shadow always looms large over everything, leaving Taichi competing with a practical ghost, and how could he possibly win against that? If there were ever two individuals destined to fight, it would be Tom Cruise and Justin Bieber, but second to that, it would be Shizuo and Izaya from Durarara. These two gentlemen desperately want to kill each other, and it's been that way ever since they met in high school, and their constant brawls frequently cost thousands of dollars in collateral damage until the police have to show up and stop them. No matter what, Izaya always manages to screw up Shizuo's life. Just mention Izaya's name to Shizuo and it'll most likely cause him to explode in a fit of uncontrollable rage. And it's even worse whenever Shizuo happens to see Izaya on the street, as he usually tries to hurdle anything not bolted down at him while trying to chase him. Yeah, it's a really intense rivalry. Rivals are best when both sides represent an opposing ideal, something so contrasting that they can't help but crash into each other like a raging tidal wave. In Ping Pong the animation, this is represented by Pico and his rival Sakuma. Although not a main character like Pico, Sakuma is the twisted opposite mirror image of him. Pico is blessed with extraordinary talent, which means he doesn't have to try very hard to be good at ping pong. For most of his life, he's been able to rack up win after win just with his natural talent alone. Sakuma is different in that he has no talent whatsoever for ping pong and has to work hard to put in the effort to be good. Their rivalry boils down to talent versus effort, and although Pico initially scoffs at the idea of trying, his matches with Sakuma help him see the benefits of both. Yuri Kotsky and Yuri Plisetsky have more in common than just their first name. They both want to be trained by superstar and super hunk Viktor Nikiforov, and when Viktor makes it clear he wants to train Yuri Prime instead of Comrade Yuri, it sets up a wonderful rivalry between the two young skaters. Although Viktor likes to seem like he walks around with his head in the clouds, he's actually a really good coach to both of these wannabe champions, choreographing routines that play against their strengths to help them grow and learn to respect one another in new and exciting ways. Well, that's our video of the best anime rivalries of all time. What's your favorite anime rivalry? There's no wrong answer here besides Saitama and Sonic from One Punch Man. Just kidding. Kind of. Anyway, go ahead and leave a comment and be sure to subscribe to CBR for more awesome anime content. As always, thanks for watching.